Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Random Troy Radio, episode 463. Coming to you on Monday, November 20th. We're going to look back at USC's wild win over the UCLA Bruins, 48-45 at the Rose Bowl. Take your questions and so much more. As always, feel free to follow us on social media. We're at Random Troy on Twitter and Facebook. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Our email address is randomtroy@fansided.com. I'm your host, Michael Castillo. You can follow me on Twitter at MichaelCastFS. And of course, I'm joined along with my co-host, Penguin of Troy on Twitter, Elisa Deratola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We are back. Super excited to be back. First time doing this, and it is a podcast remotely. We are remote. If you're joining us on YouTube, you are joining us for the first time here. Not from our, Random Troy studio in Los Angeles. We're on the road. We're in Washington State. We have driven through Oregon today. We drove through California yesterday. We are here getting some preemptive scouting today. We hung out in Eugene for a little bit. Watched the U.S. Wales game. Big ups to Team USA for dropping a couple points to Wales when it looks like they had it wrapped up. But we'll talk about that another day. This is not a soccer podcast, of course. As always, if you're joining us here on YouTube, be sure to like the video and subscribe. And let's get right into the news. We got to start with the polls. USC now ranked 5th in the AP poll and coaches poll. The Trojans are the highest ranked team with any losses. That wasn't the case before. Of course, LSU was ahead of the Trojans last week. No longer the case. The Trojans are 5th. Only teams above them, all undefeated: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. TCU survives. Michigan survives. Ohio State survives. Georgia wins by 10, 16-6 over Kentucky. All of those teams had a tough go over the weekend, but they all win. And there is SC, now currently behind Ohio State and Michigan, but one of them's got to lose. SC's in a good spot to sort of win and they're in. You would assume that if SC wins and they're in, they're going to be in over the one-loss the one-loss non-Big Ten champ, which is going to be whoever loses the game on Sunday on Saturday, because Tennessee lost. The other USC coming through South Carolina and doing SC a huge favor.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that when we talked about a couple of weeks ago what USC would need to do to get into the college football playoff, I felt all along it was win and you're in, because stuff happens at the end of the season, and you have teams lose and knock themselves out, and everybody else in front of USC will have the opportunity to be knocked out too. Michigan's going to potentially get knocked out. Ohio State's going to potentially get knocked out. LSU or Georgia is going to have stuff happen in the SEC title game. So USC is in a really, really good spot right now in terms of national rankings, in terms of analytics, in terms of strength of schedule is starting to look really good. And so, yeah, if you're USC and you have playoff aspirations, you are right where you need to be.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. The Trojans are in a spot where win and you're in. Didn't think that we would be sitting here talking about USC like that at some point in the season, but that's where they are. The interesting thing for me is you look at the analytics and the numbers have the Trojans 14th, all of them in lockstep, SP+, FEI, Jeff Sagarin, ESPN's FPI. I don't like to talk about ESPN's FPI, but when they're 14th too, it's a little funny that everyone is the same. And for me, this sort of echoes the idea that anecdotally, I don't think this USC team is what we picture when we picture a playoff team. We don't picture a team that gives up 45 points to UCLA. We don't picture a team that gave up 43 points to Utah, right? At the same time, when you look at the landscape of college football, nobody's perfect, right? And yeah, they might be 14th by the numbers, and that tells you that, that SC could be much better than they are at times. I mean, they did leave a lot of points on the field against UCLA, but at the end of the day, they keep getting the job done and keep winning. If they keep doing that, they're going to be in the playoff. I think for me, the interesting thing is, Alicia, is there any chance You think if SC wins, SC beats Notre Dame, presumably they beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. TCU finishes off their season with a win over Iowa State, then goes to the Big 12 championship game, beats Kansas State again. Is there any chance SC jumps TCU to finish third?
That would be quite the call for the playoff committee, wouldn't it? Because in that scenario, TCU is still an undefeated conference champion. And I think that there are strength of schedule situations that you could certainly make the argument for USC. But I would wager that the one loss results in USC being fourth. I don't think it's impossible, but I'd wager. I think it's a very niche scenario where USC blows out Notre Dame, blows out Oregon, and TCU struggles in their last few games.
I keep going to the thought of, the college football playoff committee tends to kind of sort by the fewest losses goes at the top.
Yeah.
The difference being in 2014, Florida State was the only undefeated team. They were the third seed behind one loss Alabama, one loss Oregon. Isn't there a world in which that happens again? Because I think that it's very possible. The college football playoff committee talks about wins more than anything. SC would have beaten several ranked teams at that point. Oregon, Notre Dame, UCLA, Oregon State. TCU, as it stands right now, has one ranked win. If they go 13-0, they have two ranked wins, and it's over the same team, Kansas State, presumably, assuming that they're their opponent in the Big 12 championship game. And SC's only one loss is to a Utah team who's going to be in the top 20 by a point on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Like, I think there's a chance. And the reason I bring this up is I've talked about it before that earlier on in the season, I thought that Ohio State and Georgia were playing a different sport. And I sort of believe that still, but more so about Georgia than Ohio State. I think Ohio State, and I think there's a world in which SC gives Ohio State some sort of game. I don't think that's true with Georgia. I think SC playing Georgia again would just be like a redux of the Georgia-Tennessee game. And mind you, that's fine in year one under Lincoln Riley when SC has, coming off of a 4-8 season and all that stuff. Just getting to the playoff would be so enormous of a win for SC. It doesn't matter what happens in the playoff. At the same time, SC playing Ohio State could be like a crazy fun game.
Yeah. As opposed to SC playing Georgia.
Yeah. And I think if you're SC, you just want to avoid Georgia. If you can get up to number 3 and Ohio State's 2, there's a chance. There's a chance. Especially if that game's at I don't know. There's a chance there. Am I crazy?
I think you're right that USC's best case scenario is to avoid Georgia. Whether that means Ohio State at number 1 and USC at number 4, or Ohio State number 2 and USC managing to get ahead of TCU at number 3. I think that's definitely the best case scenario. But I have a hard time penciling any of that in at this point.
Sure.
And we don't even know if it's Ohio State that's going to be there. We don't know
it could be Michigan.
If it's Michigan. I think we know that Georgia's going to beat LSU, but crazier things have happened.
If it's Michigan.
If it's Michigan, you really want Michigan.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Michigan without Corum.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
but then
what
again,
you want.
Michigan without Corum beating Ohio State potentially.
But Michigan without Corum, I think if you're talking to quarterback play, Stroud is a much more dangerous quarterback than JJ McCarthy.
For sure.
I think your chances against Michigan are just better. But
also, we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
We're getting extremely ahead of ourselves.
At this point.
But you know what? USC beat UCLA on Saturday. And so we get to be on a high. We get to talk about all of the great things that are possible because USC beat UCLA on Saturday and they run LA. They have the victory bell. They're in the Pac-12 title game and it's full steam ahead. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Kenny says, you really want TCU, right?
I mean, absolutely.
Yes.
College football college football should want TCU and USC to meet. Like, that game would be entertaining as all hell.
Is that what you want? Should it be, instead of a bracket, should the playoff be
Like, what's the best matchup?
No, should it be about stages? Is Georgia just the final boss? You just put Georgia at the end, and SC has to beat TCU. And then the winner of that one has to beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then the winner of that game has to beat Georgia.
That would be fun.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Other news talking about Jordan Addison, of course. The Biletnikoff winner from a year ago is a semifinalist again. This was just announced today on Monday. 51 catches, 765 yards, 8 touchdowns, including a long touchdown pass reception that he had against the Bruins on Saturday. He doesn't have the numbers of Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee or Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. Don't think he's going to win it. Don't think he's going to be a finalist, but good for SC to have someone there. I think we all agree that SC has an elite receiving core. I don't think this year there's been a guy who's worthy of the Biletnikoff, because Caleb Williams has been able to distribute all over, and that's a good thing. That's nothing wrong with that.
It doesn't help that Jordan Addison has missed.
He missed a couple games,
so his stats were never going to hold up against the other guys, because he was out, and he came back for the Colorado game, but it's not like he was ever going to put up crazy numbers in that game, coming off of the injury, being on a pitch count and all of that kind of stuff. So
right.
No, I think that he's had an exceptional season. I think that just his performance against UCLA was proof that, like, yes, this is a Biletnikoff Award winner quality receiver. And while his numbers aren't going to hold up for a variety of reasons, the biggest of which is that injury, he's still that caliber of receiver. He deserves to be involved in the semifinalist and maybe even the finalist discussion. But I agree with you. I don't think he's going to be able to win it. And that's just because of circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. We will see what comes of the Biletnikoff going forward. Him being a winner before, could help him. Who knows? Maybe he continues to go off. He had 170 something yards against UCLA. He does that again against Notre Dame.
I
don't know. He could get in there. We know that the voters are definitely prisoners at the moment. And speaking of, let's talk about Caleb Williams and his Heisman campaign. SC has launched it. Heisman.com, spelled he 13 man, spelling Heisman, of course. Heisman ranking roundups
just never fails to
are. Remember the Believe with the 7 in it
with the 7
for Matt Barkley?
Yeah.
A little bit of an homage to that.
I think it's a little bit of an unfortunate homage to the Believe with the 7. I think it's clunkier than the Believe with the 7.
I just want to read it as He-Man with 13.
It looks like He-Man with the 13 in the middle is exactly what it looks like. I get what they're doing. I get it. It's but it just makes me laugh every time I see it. I'm sorry.
Well, Scott Rogers from fanside.com has Caleb Williams as number 1.
My colleague.
The New York Post has him as number 1 as well, over CJ Stroud of Ohio State. The USA Today Overreaction says Caleb Williams just won the Heisman with the win over UCLA. In terms of the odds, take this for what they are. I never necessarily care for the betting odds on Heisman stuff from like the offshore stuff, but betonline.ag, for what it's worth, has Caleb Williams as the best odds to win the Heisman. DraftKings has CJ Stroud at minus 125 and Caleb Williams at plus 130, whatever that means. Never know what those numbers mean. I don't get it.
The person with the minus is the one that's the lead, and the people with the lowest numbered pluses are then the most likely. So just run with it. DraftKings, FanDuel, all of those have CJ Stroud as the Heisman favorite in the odds right now, and Caleb Williams.
Prop 27 failed. I haven't needed to catch up on this
thing. Yeah. Suffice it to say, Caleb Williams is a firm number 2. In fact, the Heisman odds that I was looking at for getting ready for this, it seemed to me, reading the odds, that it was very much Stroud and Williams and nobody else. Which I was a little bit surprised about, but that's also a function of This is why odds aren't a great way to value these, because quarterbacks are always going to get higher odds than like the running back, like Blake Corum. who's coming off an injury, so we don't know where he's going to be at. But Caleb Williams is very, very much in the Heisman discussion. The performance he put in against UCLA has, to me, pretty much set him on track to go to New York. And it's going to be very interesting this coming Saturday because Caleb has a really good opportunity to stamp his name on that award.
Yeah.
The only thing that stops him stamping his name on that award is CJ Stroud going off against Michigan, which is certainly possible. Certainly possible. Yeah. But that's something that is out of Caleb Williams' control. What he can do is against a Notre Dame defense that seems to have a pulse to go off and put up big numbers as well.
Yeah, we did get a message, by the way, after the CarCast from the College Football Bros who said, amazing job as always. What a game. Also, just an FYI, the Heisman changed the rules last year. They now invite exactly 4 finalists every season. Yeah. Thanks, guys, by the way. Love your show, too. Yeah, I'm glad that you popped in with this because I always find it confusing. Yeah, and I'm glad that the Heisman is just sticking to it.
Yeah.
Pick 4 dudes. I think that works.
I think it's pretty clear that Caleb Williams will be among those 4 dudes at this point.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker unfortunately got hurt. I think it's a shame if that affects his status, but given how finicky these things are and given that Tennessee did lose to South Carolina, I feel like that will ultimately affect his status on these things as well. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Heisman going forward. Of course, SC needs big games out of Caleb Williams going forward for that to still be a reality, and he's going to do that. The UCLA game was not the end of the road. SC's got 2 huge games coming up, Notre Dame on Saturday and Oregon the following Friday, in order to continue moving forward. That's going to wrap it up for the news. I wanted to get your thoughts, Alicia. It's been a couple days removed from the UCLA game, the Trojans winning 48-45. Any new thoughts?
What a win. I mean, it was a huge win. And I think that as Sunday progressed and you got to see a lot of the reaction videos that we saw from the field, you could see how much it meant to Lincoln Riley, to Caleb Williams, to pretty much everybody on that team. I think something that we didn't bring up on Saturday was what a moment that was for Bobby Haskins, who transferred from Virginia, who was playing for his former teammates who were tragically killed in that shooting over at the University of Virginia. We had friends in the stands who were telling us that there was a huge crowd of Bobby Haskins supporters at the Rose Bowl. And I don't know if that was planned. Like, I don't know if they had intended to come to the USC UCLA game the entire time, but it was really, really cool to see that they were able to be there supporting him, cheering him on, starting, Haskins chants and everything like that, and to see his reaction after the game. Clearly very emotional. So wanted to point that out too, that was another sort of moment from this game that lifted it up beyond just the sort of football game. But when it comes down to it, that was a huge game for USC to make a statement in. And Caleb Williams absolutely made a statement with his performance. And USC continued to show their resilience. And that's something that we've talked about this season, that this team has had a lot of resilience. And I think that we need to continue to highlight what they have been able to achieve going 10-1 so far, set up for a Pac-12 title clash. And, it's not always pretty with this team. The reason we talk about whether or not USC is a playoff team is because it's not always pretty. But the thing that we know is that they have a belief and a swagger and a resilience to them that I think you don't always see from football teams. Certainly haven't seen that from USC teams in a while. And that's really, really cool to see them step up in a rivalry game like that. So the further away we get from it, the more excited I am about it, because it was a win that answered a lot of questions in terms of what this team can accomplish.
Yes, I am going to sort of now jump in with be the negative one.
Oh,
No,
lame.
not the negative one. More so, just looking back on it, SC, like I told you before, SC allowed 45 points, and yet honestly, that's the most. I feel more confident about USC's defense than I have in 2 months, which is at least a month and a half or whatever. That feels crazy.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a testament of DTR commits 4 turnovers. SC wins by 3 points.
Incredible.
And that's where, if you are going to be the team that ends up getting to the playoff and you want to beat an Ohio State or a Georgia, you want to be competitive against those teams, you can't do that. You cannot force 4 turnovers and only win by a field goal. SC left so many points on the board early on in the game. We talked about how important it was to get separation early in the third quarter to go up 10. And that was huge. It was huge for SC, huge on defense to be able to go up by 10 points, allow the offense to then trade touchdowns in the third and fourth quarter, and you can survive. But the problem is they should have had that separation in the first quarter.
Yeah.
SC goes down 14-0 in this game, a game they should have led 14-0.
Easily.
Yeah, and they didn't finish off their drives early on. I'm not going to bag too much on Dennis Lynch about the kicks. He did hit the hard one. He went 2 of 4. Because if he was making the field goals, I'd still be saying that they needed to finish off those drives to not settle for field goals.
Yeah.
So if SC's offense is the banner carrier and is incredible. They're number 2 in SP Plus, number 3 in FEI. This is the best offense that we've seen at USC since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, you need to maximize that. And they absolutely could have put that game away done and dusted super early on, to the point where when they have the separation, in the middle 8 and all that stuff, that could have just further emphasized how much of a runaway that game could have been. You can't commit 4 turnovers and still win by just 3 points. You commit 4 turnovers, you need to bury a team by 20, especially a game in which SC had a million opportunities early on in the game. So if they want to be serious about being a playoff team and winning a game in the playoff, you got to correct that. That said, in terms of year one and where everything is big picture in the Lincoln Riley era, I think everything is just absolutely hunky-dory fine. But if you're looking at yourself as a playoff team and as a playoff candidate, then you gotta dot your I's, cross your T's, and take care of the little things.
Well, and this is why I've continued to beat the drum that I don't know that this team is ready for the playoff. That doesn't mean that they won't deserve the playoff if they win their next 2 games. But the reason I keep saying that I don't know that they're ready for it is because of that sloppiness, because of that. In a game where USC scored 48 points and Caleb Williams had arguably the greatest individual performance that a USC player has ever had against UCLA, they left 21 points on the board, easily. Yeah. They could have scored 70. So it's incredible.
That's the crazy part.
It's incredible to think about the ceiling potential that this team has.
Yeah.
And I think that the fun thing here is that it's year 1 under Lincoln Riley. They're still figuring out little things on offense that are still this isn't the finished article. And when this team gets to be the finished article on offense, it is going to be scary as all hell.
Yeah. Well, the other side of it is, if I'm going to ask for the maximum out of the offense, then I should also be saying that, defensively, you force 4 turnovers. You also need to be forcing some stops in there.
Yeah.
SC didn't force stops in this game. It was turnover or bust defensively. And you can get away with it when you have an offense like SC does. And you can get away with it when you turn them over 4 times, not just once. But the difference between SC winning a national championship and having a great season is paying those off. SC could have been 20 points better on both sides of the ball and won this game by 23.
Yeah, and those are the things that it's your one things, right? I think that these
Yeah.
are exactly the kind of things. The defense has to get a lot better. If they don't get better, then we're going to continue to have these conversations. The offense, I still think, is going to get better as
Yeah,
Lincoln
I think
Riley
so
puts
too.
his stamp on it. So you're in an incredible spot for year one of the Lincoln Riley era. And I saw somebody in the chat saying like we should be happy. I think
Yeah,
cigar.
I think you have to be happy for sure.
Yeah, you have to be. You just
this
beat
is
UCLA. You just got the victory bell.
yeah,
I mean, watching videos of Lincoln Riley and those players with
right.
the victory bell in the locker room, ringing that thing to death. Like,
Yeah. Malcolm
how?
says accept the team for what it is. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's
I think
what
you
this
do
team
accept the
is.
team for what it is, and that's to me that's why I'm not bagging on the defense, and that's
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's why I'm sitting here saying that they give up 45 points,
And I feel good about them.
and I feel good about them, right? Is
Yeah.
because I do accept what this team is.
Yeah.
And in accepting what this team is, there's a lot of me that thinks that seeing SC do what they did against UCLA, even if they needed the Corey Foreman interception at the end, so much of that validated a lot of my concerns. And it validated any concern I have about SC going forward. Not to say that I think it's guaranteed that they're going to beat Notre Dame and Oregon. I certainly don't think that. I think they absolutely could drop either, if not both of those games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that any hesitation I had over SC being competitive against a upper echelon team in terms of like a ranked team, given the struggles of the Arizona game and the Cal game, completely gone.
Yeah. Oh, this team is competitive. And this is why, we keep talking about the playoff and there's like, I don't know if I'm any of those playoff teams that I'm looking at USC and thinking like, yeah, that's the matchup I want. Like, I think certainly opposing fans and stuff will look at the defense and go like, well, it's, going to expose that defense.
Yeah,
but like,
but everyone's going to talk about Caleb Williams
I'd also
too.
look at it and just go like, I don't want to have to deal with Caleb Williams. I don't want to have to deal with that offense. And that's an incredible place to be in. And that sort of takes some of the stress. I was really stressed in the UCLA game. I was losing it. Right. And watching them persevere and win kind of takes some of the stress that I think I have for the rest of the season away, in the sense that like, we know this team can compete against a ranked team, against a good ranked team. Now we know that they can win a close game at the end. We know that they can overcome difficulties and get the job done.
Yeah.
And that answers a certain question for me. But also it's like, yeah, USC could just cause havoc. USC could wreak some havoc against any team that they played right now. And it sort of gives you it's like playing with house money. Like if USC got to the playoff,
for sure.
They would be the Maryland against the Ohio State, the Ohio State this past weekend, where it's like, yeah, just go for it because you're playing with house money and you're trying to pull off an upset and just like run with it. And like, it's cool to have USC in that situation right now where Lincoln Riley has already achieved more than I expected him to achieve in year one.
Yeah.
So go for the last few games of this season and just play for the fun of it, play for the chaos, play for whatever it is possible that you can get. And that's kind of that's a cool spot to be in. I didn't think we'd be in this spot.
Yeah, SC is in the position to, just like Hector in the chats, just to enjoy every minute of it. It's been a wild ride, and we'll see how much of a wild ride it continues to be. Let's get to some over under. Look at the over under. Wait, did you want to cut this?
No, no.
You didn't want to cut this segment?
No. The over under for once is something
I think we should cut this.
Essential
get to. No, I thought we agreed before.
No. I think the fans want to see over under. I think the fans want to see I think we should cut this over under work.
I honestly nobody wants to hear us talk about over under.
Oh, I think they do. They do,
Michael. All right. Let's get to over under. For the season, over under, I came into it with 38 over under wins. You had 32. Your first over under, Alicia, was over under at 125 receiving yards for Jake Bobo. He had a season high 142 against Washington, but only one other 100-yard game was 101 against Oregon, and I took the over. I believed in old Bobo.
You did. You watched enough Dalton Kincaid to know what could happen if
It was under 76 on 4 catches.
76 on 4 catches. This is what's incredible. We're gonna go through these over-unders, and a lot of the over-unders had to do with, or a few of them had to do with like UCLA's offense going off. It's weird that they scored 45 points, and yet like Jake Bobo wasn't necessarily like the driving force behind that.
Or the next one.
Or the next one.
My first over-under, which is 173.5. Zach Charbonnet rushing yards. He had averaged 157.5 against ranked teams. His last 2 games were 198 against Stanford, 181 against Arizona. I thought the line was reasonable, 173.5. You, of course, took the under, and it was basically half that, 95 yards on 19 carries. But get this, the lowest yards per carry of the season.
For Zach Charbonnet.
It snaps his streak of 8 straight 100-yard rushing games against Power 5 opponents. And he lost 10. This is from a tweet from Antonio Morales. He lost 10 yards against SC on 19 carries. He had lost just 8 yards on 152 going in. Easily his worst game of the year, SC gave it to him. Would you have expected that going in? No. That's why I feel good about this defense.
I wouldn't have expected it. Even during the game, it felt like, well, there goes Charbonnet. But like I guess it just didn't happen that often. They kept a lid on him better than pretty much anyone else this season has kept a lid on him.
Yeah.
And that is, again, one of those things where this defense is so hard to describe because they are so vulnerable in so many different ways. But like, they were the ones that shut down Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
They were the ones that kept Jake Bobo from going off. Like,
I mean, the other person to blame for this is Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly could have gone to Zach Charbonnet a little bit more.
But he had 19.
He had 19 carries. He didn't have 12.
When we talk about Lincoln Riley not going to Travis Dye enough, he had like 14 carries or 12 carries. Right. Like, Zach Charbonnet had 19 carries. Like, it's crazy that they kept him to under 100 yards.
Yes. Which, speaking of, let's go to the next line. 14.5 rushes for Austin Jones was your line. I took the under, thinking, he's going to be splitting carries. Also, it's not like Travis Dye had way more than that all the time anyways. It was way over. 21 for 121 and 2 touchdowns.
So I liked getting the over on this one because I had a feeling that the way we saw Travis Dye, he was the central back, and USC just sort of stuck with him and would occasionally use others, but mostly it was sort of a featured back offense. And what I wasn't expecting is Austin Jones to not only get more than those 15 carries, more than those 14 carries, but to make the absolute most of them the whole way through. Like, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the way he was running, like, he was just running with confidence and clarity, and it was like he had been the starter the whole damn time. Like, what a performance from him.
It was the Austin Jones we saw against Fresno State.
Yeah.
Which was really good Austin Jones.
Which was not what we had seen for the rest of the season.
No, after that, I thought he sort of lost confidence. I thought he was running away from holes. It wasn't just that Travis Dye had been the starter. It's that when Austin Jones was in there, he never looked comfortable for me.
Yeah.
And he looked comfortable in the second half of the Colorado game. And he looked comfortable against UCLA. So whatever it is, you want it to keep moving. Next line was 90.5, over under 90.5 for Leak Brown yards from scrimmage. You took the under on that, locks me into the over, and it was way under 38 yards on 6 touches.
Which, yeah, it was just me believing that Austin Jones would still be the primary back and that really we'd see a little bit of Raleek, but not like he wouldn't suddenly be splitting carries with Austin Jones.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that like Raleek only got 38 yards, but I thought he had a good game bar the 2 freshman moments or just mistakes. The third down play where he went backwards, which he needs to learn just not to do that ever again. And then the kickoff that he muffed that put USC in a long field that obviously you don't want to see. But like what I thought was most impressive about him, he was running between the tackles really well. And I think that's a really good sign for the rest of his career. So I think that this wasn't obviously his breakout performance, but I think this was a performance that he can, number one, learn from in terms of the mistake, but also grow from this kind of thing, prove that, people don't see him as a potential, every down back. Well, I think that you can't rule that out yet as a possibility going forward, just the way he was running between the tackles.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the best line of the show.
The one that I was so angry of in the moment. I thought
it was great. Personally, I thought it was wonderful.
No.
Over under 2.5 total punts. I took the over. You got locked into the under. It was over. It was 3.
And it was at 2 for a long time.
Yeah. It was 2 early on in the game. And then it became 3 in the dying minutes of the game. SC needing to punt after the miscue by Caleb Williams, followed by a sack on SC's final real drive, and needing to punt there.
That
and
sack,
it's the 3.
Okay, so that sack annoyed me so much because, like, maybe USC punts even without the sack, but like that sack just was like, no, like it wasn't even just about USC had a chance to lose the game. Like internally, I was screaming because I knew that this over/under was in play. So dumb.
I needed it. Last one, I set a line at 1.75. Over/under 1.75. Two below 2 tackles for loss. I said that if he was a factor, it would be a big thing for SC. He was a factor, but you took the under. I took the over, and it was under just a bit, 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good line here, too. I thought Thule had a good game. He was impactful. But a lot of times defensive linemen don't have to have the big sacks the big plays, the big stat numbers to be impactful. So I think this was a really good performance from Thule. Just not with the tackles for loss.
I'm glad I put it at 1.75 and not 1.25, which I originally wrote in. Changed it to 1.75. Good on me.
You're glad you would have had it.
Yes, because
You're
of course
for
the week we can just skip that part. Because you went 5-1 and I went 1-5. And for the season, I now have 39 over/under wins. You're right behind me with 37.
The comeback is on, man.
It is. Big shout out to our good pal, our good friend, LA Fred.
Hell of a week.
The only Rotbot to go a perfect 6-0. He didn't fall for the punt thing.
Nope.
He didn't fall for it. You should have listened to.
He didn't fall for the Bobo or Charbonnet yards. He didn't fall for.
Okay, we don't have to keep going over it. We know. Season leaders, the top 9. Here are the top 9, folks. For the Rotbots, tied in 7th place with 46 over/under wins. Callie Cat, Ji Young 08, and Stephen Chad. In 6th place with 47 over/under wins, Jay Vandy. Tied for 3rd, LA Fred, fresh off his perfect week. Carrie from Chicago and Randy from Redlands, all with 48. In 2nd place, continuing at number 2, Moose Pants. Great name, by the way. 49 over/under wins. And Ryan from Arizona, still in 1st place with a 2-point lead. 2 over/under wins ahead with 51.
He's
holding
up
steady.
The fort.
Yeah.
Yep.
Game predictions, Bill Connolly's numbers, of course, SC losing 34-35. Didn't work out. SC ends up winning, of course. Vegas had SC as 1.5 point favorites. As of us recording last week, SC covered by winning by 3. You predicted a 65-62 win for the Trojans. I predicted a 52-48 win. I was closer, but you had the exact margin of victory at 3.
Yeah, it could have been 65-62 very easily, the way that these two offenses were playing. But yeah, I mean, we said it was an evenly matched game, and the result of the game, it came down to the final drive. It came down to 3 points. It was an evenly matched game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into the mailbag. Start with an email we got from Hector. You want to read it?
Yeah, so Hector says, hey guys, this entire season has obviously felt like a statement in terms of culture and growth in the USC program. Maybe I'm getting caught up in the fact that Saturday night was one of the most fun moments I've had at a USC game ever, but I wanted to share this moment that felt like a cool, poetic statement about how much the culture has changed. I was in the visiting student section in 2018. The game was close down the stretch, and the Rose Bowl played Mo Bamba, which had the USC sideline jumping up and down, going crazy instead of focusing on the sidelines. If I remember correctly, someone on USCFootball.com shared the video on Twitter, and USC fans were irate. This week, they played Mo Bamba after the Corey Foreman game-sealing pick, and the sideline was just as lit as it was in 2018, but this time after getting the job done. It was a cool moment to see the culture change. Thanks for all you guys do. Keep up the good work. Fight on, Hector.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's amazing how winning cures so many things. The perception of guys smiling on the sidelines, people waving towels, anything. You do anything when you're winning, people love it.
Yeah, those towel waver guys on the sidelines would not be, well, they aren't welcome by a lot of USC fans.
Yeah, but
they'd be even more of a
people weren't happy with like walk-ons waving towels in the Clay Helton era, right? Yeah. Like, it's one of those things when you're winning, you can get away with a lot of things, and it just everything just seems more fun, right?
Yes. One thing I think that I very much noticed is, UCLA was publicly talking a lot of trash early in the week. And it was notable that USC wasn't sort of the guys from USC weren't taking the bait. They were sort of staying within the lines and sort of not bringing up that kind of stuff. But like after the game, it was very clear that USC heard everything.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams mentioned it. Brett Nealon was calling them teddy bears.
Yeah.
I think it was Solomon Byrd jumped on Twitter after the game to like say something about like, go back to your, go back home, sissy Bruins or something like that. Like it was like full blown like trash talk after the game from the USC side. And it was just sort of that proof that USC heard everything. They internalized everything, all of the bulletin board material that we had talked about going into the game. That was something that USC held on to, but they didn't take the bait until after they got the win. Caleb Williams didn't show that burst of emotions until after he got the first down that sealed the win. Yeah. We didn't see guys.
I mean, he did have FUCLA written on his fingernails.
Yes, that is.
But he's done that, every game.
He's done that too. But like in terms of just the way that they were out there on the field, you could sort of see that they very much approached the game in a professional manner.
Yeah.
And once they got it done, you saw that emotional, passionate sort of outburst from everybody. I think I saw one of the beat writers say that like, I did not expect this from Brett Nealon. Like of all the people to be talking trash after the game, it wasn't Brett Nealon. So like it clearly got to them. It got to the team.
We talked about it before. UCLA was talking a lot of trash, but like they also won the game last year. Like you're allowed to do that. And then next year SC will be allowed to talk all the trash that they want.
And next year, the UCLA players are going to be able to say, like, we heard all of their trash talking after last year's game and we took it personally. Like, that's the way that rivalries work. So,
yeah,
it's fun.
We got an email from Andy who says, "Greetings, Michael and Alicia. I agree with Michael regarding wanting SC to play a good UCLA team. My opinion, I want SC to play the best all year long. My dad, class of 58, used to say we want everyone to play to win until they play us, then keep winning after they lose. That gives us the strength of schedule and beating the best competition. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Best, Andy." Yes, thoroughly agree. That's what you want.
That's how you get into the playoffs.
You know what SC wants right now? SC really wishes that Fresno State was the best Group of 5 team.
Yes.
And that Rice was like number 2 of the Group of 5 teams, but not the case. But you want that with everybody, not just UCLA, with literally everybody. It's a good thing that Oregon State keeps winning.
Yes. Well, this past weekend, I was looking at Notre Dame saying, man, don't screw this up against Boston College. USC needs you to win. Your
alma mater.
The affiliated school of my high school.
Your alma mater.
The Oregon State, watching them, needing them to keep winning. Like, I've been watching Washington State this whole season, like wishing that they would play up to their level week in and week out, because I think that's a good team, and I don't think that team gets a lot of credit because they've stumbled where they've stumbled. But like, that's what you should be looking for, is everybody that you beat, you want them to then, you don't want them to collapse. You want them to be good. You want, like, I'm going into this week wanting UCLA to beat Cal, because I don't want them to fall apart, because that's ultimately bad for what that means for you.
You don't want SC to play Washington?
Well, that would be funny, but I want.
Yeah, if you're wondering, if SC can't play Washington, but they need Cal to beat UCLA.
Yeah. So
in like one part of the type, Washington needs like
everything to happen.
All these things to happen.
Yeah.
But
so Kenny in the chat said, I'm of two minds. It's fun when the UCLA game has these stakes, but there's also so much fun when they lose a lot. That's where I'm at, though, is that, like, if you're gonna lose every single game, and then it's really funny. What I hate is teams like Notre Dame, where it's like they lost the first, 3 or 4, whatever it was, or like they looked like they were just a dumpster fire, and then it turned out like they were okay, but then they lost to Stanford. So, like, instead of being a top 10 Notre Dame team, they're like a weirdly middling, like, top 20 Notre Dame team.
What is this team?
Yeah, it's like, or like Washington State is like a not ranked but good team. Like, I'd rather you just lose every game or win every game. Like, don't piddle fart around or anything like that.
All right, let's get into the questions we got here on YouTube. We're going to rapid fire these things. Cameron says, with Caleb's exceptional performance against UCLA, does this game and the last 2 games of the season remind you of Carson Palmer's Heisman run in 2002? Yes. And I think that, it could be punctuated by the game against Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
The difference being he's got another one against Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be super helpful.
Winning on the biggest platforms, performing on the biggest platforms, that's how you win the Heisman. So these next 2 games are Caleb Williams' Heisman candidacy.
Yeah, for sure. Kenny says, remember when USC beat UCLA and got their 10th win of the season, clinched the Pac-12, and made Caleb Williams the Heisman front winner? Would you agree that was awesome?
That was awesome, Kenny. Yes, I would agree.
All right. Next one. Let's go to a message from Adam Panoy. What's your favorite? 1, design and timing of the TD pass to Jordan Addison out of the backfield. 2, Barlow lowering his shoulder for the TD. Or 3, Ford being a grown-ass man on his TD catch.
That touchdown pass to Addison was just gorgeous. Like, just everything about it was just gorgeous. I loved it.
I loved that design because it put him on it put a tight end on him.
Yes.
You're never going to cover a Biletnikoff winner with a tight end.
No, with the linebacker.
Well, yeah. Sorry, with the tight end. What am I talking about? A linebacker, yes.
Yeah. We're going to get a question from Rama Murdy. Can we see this success leading to a top 10 recruiting class and more portal transfers? We always say that recruiting doesn't necessarily like they're not looking at the wins and losses or anything like that. But having a USC,
not the individual
wins and losses, but having a successful season invites recruits to buy into your program that much more. And recruits are recruiting class recruits and transfer portal recruits. So yes, I do think that that this successful season can help USC in recruiting across all fronts. We'll move on to a question from Randy. What do you think? What did you think of Lincoln Riley after the game was over? It seemed to me the magnitude of the USC UCLA rivalry finally hit him. I agree, Randy. Like his reaction to it was kind of surprising to me. We haven't seen him.
He was fired up.
He was fired up as all hell.
I don't know that it finally hit him as much as in that was finally the moment. Like SC has played a lot of games outside of the Utah game that have not necessarily been felt overly exciting.
Yeah.
Had a lot of stakes.
Meaningful game of the season.
It's the most meaningful game. Sell out at the Rose Bowl, the whole bit, right? Like we look forward to that game for a long time for a reason, and it backed up everything it was supposed to be.
Yeah. We got another question from Cigar. Do 1 and 4 play in the Peach Bowl while 2 and 3 play in the Fiesta? Anyone know?
So it goes on whoever is number 1. So if number 1 is Georgia, then yeah, it would be they would play in the Peach Bowl. If number 2 is if Georgia's number 2, then Ohio State would play in the Peach Bowl because it's closer to them.
If USC was number 1, they'd play the Fiesta because it's closer. Like
yes,
right? Like it.
Right, but the difference being that they also don't want the inverse to happen. So, like for instance, let's say the Rose Bowl was in there, you wouldn't want the number 4 team to be SC and the game be at the Rose Bowl,
yeah,
because then it would give SC an unfair advantage. Like they're supposed to be relatively as fair as they can be in terms of location.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's that's stuff that we'll figure out as the season goes on. We got a question from Kenny. Why does it feel like this year fans are being treated like players? I feel I've never seen so many people say, just focus on the game to fans. I'm not playing. I'm planning for Vegas. Yeah, Kenny, I agree. I think it's just the way that fans interact with each other too. Like people are never going to be happy one way or the other.
Yeah, there's always something.
Yeah. All right, we got a question from the Underdogs. Do you think all
the Underdoge?
The Underdoge. Yeah. Huh. I need to read properly. Do you think all the Heisman talk will cloud Caleb's mind for this Saturday? I hope not. He's too cool of a customer, I think, to let it get to him.
I don't think that I think that if he was going to get tight sphinctered, I think we'd already seen it.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. We got a question from Eric. Is there a performance breakdown when Caleb wears black leggings, yellow leggings, or no leggings? He appears very even keel and focused with the no leggings look. You pay attention to these things, Michael.
I don't know. I think we need to go back and like look at each game, break it down a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of the black leggings.
I would be down to do this personally. Like I am willing to give some splits on the leggings, but give us time. We'll see if we do that. We got another question from Kenny. How much did you love Gus Johnson calling the game, Michael?
It was good. I thought Gus and Joel Klatt, I think, call a very good game. Gus is amazing. That said, if you work in the USC athletic department, and if you are managing the social media accounts or the video or anything, can we just hear Pete Arbogast, please?
I swear.
Where are the Pete Arbogast calls? Like, where are they?
On all that is holy. Why does USC act like Pete Arbogast does not exist?
I don't understand, because when you're at the game, well, I haven't been to a game this year. We've talked about this before. It would be they would show the highlight with Pete immediately. Like 30 seconds after the touchdown.
On the big boards.
Yeah. Why can't they do that? Why don't just tweet it out?
Yeah, you should have them all. You should have. I have been 2 things I've been jonesing for over the last couple of days. Number 1, just a highlight package with Pete Arbogast calls.
Yeah,
That's
I want
all
to know
want.
what did the Corey Foreman
Yeah, I want to know what it
interception
sounded
sound
like.
like? Yeah.
And number two, which is sort of related, like, can somebody just bring back Trojan Rewind? Trojan Rewind would solve this entire problem. Just give us Trojan Rewind back.
It's embarrassing how many Trojan Rewind episodes I watch on YouTube.
They're amazing.
Like old ones. They're so good.
They're amazing. Bring them back. They can't be that hard to produce. Get 2 interns with cameras, one on each side of the end zone. Have them film the thing. Go cut it up. Like, it should be this. It should be easy. It should not be difficult to produce this show. Like,
have the rights to the audio. Yeah.
Okay. Randy asks, USC has not put a complete 4-quarter game together yet this year. Do you think we'll see one before the season is over? You want my hot take?
What's your hot take?
No, I don't think so.
Is that a hot take?
And is it? This team seems to start slowly in the first quarter recently. I think that what I've sort of been saying is that I think this team can be prone to mishaps, and that's why you're not going to get a complete 4-quarter game.
We were
that
talking
doesn't
about
mean
before,
that you can't win games not doing that.
Except what this team is, right?
Yeah.
This team might not be a full 60-minute team.
Yeah.
How many of those exist in college football this year?
If they were, they would be the runaway number 1 team in the country.
Right. And how many of those exist this year?
None. Because even Georgia's not that.
Yes. Georgia can be when they want to be.
Yeah.
For sure. But they're not always.
Yeah. All right. We got a question from Kenny. Has a team ever allowed 45 points while allowing 4 turnovers? Kenny, I want to be able to answer this question for you so badly. This is a call to Sports Reference.
I imagine the answer is yes.
Sports Reference in the NFL, I could pull up with my subscription. I could pull up exactly the answer to you for that on the NFL.
The stat head doesn't work for the
They don't have college football stat head the way that to the extent that they have for NFL. So I cannot answer that question for you, but I want to. Come on, stat head, get your crap together. Randy asks, I think after this recruiting cycle and the transfer portal in year 2, we'll have a much improved defense. What say you? Absolutely. I think that USC will be able to continue to recruit guys, continue to transfer portal guys, and the defense will get better.
Yeah, give it a bit of time. Absolutely. I will say about Grinch too. He give him some time, but also, was he not a little validated with the whole like dropping the ends into zone coverage?
As I tweeted, like, I still cannot get over the fact that Corey Foreman dropping into coverage won USC this game.
All of SC's interceptions were because DTR couldn't read the zone.
Yeah.
Zone coverage, that's Grinch's thing. So it worked.
All right. Speaking of Grinch, Kenny asked, was Grinch's defense choosing one thing to stop, i.e. Charbonnet, and an ironic own on Clancy, or not? I think they were dropping into zone and asking DTR to beat them, which
I think you should have done once he got hurt, right? Yeah. Force the hurt guy to beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if I was a UCLA fan, like, I would absolutely love DTR, but like, dude, you cannot play that way and expect to win games. Hurting yourself like that made it harder for you to win. Like, so going headfirst into those tackles and stuff made it harder for you to win that game.
I appreciate, as a college football fan, I appreciate a player who is willing to sacrifice himself and put him out there to make crazy blocks and throw his body out there and you put his body out. I appreciate that. But his blocks were so emphatic to the point that, like, he was asking himself to sort of get hurt.
Yes.
And I'm like, you gotta be careful, because I just wince every time I see a quarterback do anything. I just have PTSD of 1999, September of 1999, at Addison Stadium, and Carson Palmer going down the sideline and dropping his shoulder and trying to take on a dude. I get it, I respect it, but also, like, try to avoid contact.
And especially on some of those runs that he had, like, you didn't need to put your body on the line that way. It wasn't a Jake Haener situation. You didn't need, like, you didn't need to do that. But last question from Kenny. When you're playing blackjack before the Pac-12 title game, Your hand total is 16 and the dealer is showing 7. Do you hit or stay?
I don't know anything about blackjack. Don't know how it works.
To me, you stay.
So sure, I'd hit, I guess. I don't know.
You stay. Last 2 questions, kind of off topic, but still, we're going to do them.
Both from Ramamurti.
Ramamurti. Did Jessie make the road trip, or is she at home being taken care of while you're on your trip?
Jessie is currently at home.
Yes.
With a family friend who is watching her.
Yes.
We have gotten several photos of her.
Looking extremely cute.
Yes, and videos of her looking very adorable. We miss her dearly.
Yes.
I don't want to play the audio of this, but here's a video of Jessie.
Yeah,
looking absolutely adorable while our family friend works.
Yeah,
right next to her.
So. Yeah, pawing at her, whining, making strange noises because our dog decides.
Look at this! Literally putting her paw on the laptop, like, "Can you stop working and please pet me?"
Yes, that's Jessie. Rama also asks, "Will Thanksgiving dinner have stacked lasagnas?" I do not think lasagna is on the menu for Thanksgiving, but if it is, we will let you know.
Yeah, I don't think it will be, but we can always do that. We can have it for Black Friday, maybe.
There you go.
Black Friday, U.S. and England celebrate with lasagna. That's American.
American is apple pie.
Exactly. I feel like it would have been funny if we said American as
a cannoli, shepherd's
pie or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Last question. Cigar says, "Are the Castillos coming to Vegas?" No, probably not.
Oh, I wish.
We wish, but probably not. So. All right, this is going to wrap up this episode. Thanks, as always, for sticking it with us here on YouTube. And if you're subscribed, thank you. If you're not, please subscribe. Like the video, the stream, as always. If you're with us over on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Helps grow the show. Subscribe, and we'll be back on Wednesday nights with a preview of USC and Notre Dame. Until then, we will see you.
See ya.
See ya.